Hello, my name is Pamela Sullivan, and I'm the director of the Stanley County Senior Services Department here in Albemarle. And this is Alexa Sells, the program coordinator at the Senior Center. We're sitting down with a few special guests to celebrate their incredible journeys and learn about their invaluable contributions they have made to our society.
Every year, the Stanley County Senior Center hosts a 90-plus birthday party for Stanley County seniors who are 90 years and older. This annual party is made possible through the support of our community and numerous volunteers.
This year, the party was held on Tuesday, August 6th with a Roaring Twenties theme. Approximately 145 guests attended the event, with 50 of those being 90 years and older. The oldest, or what we like to call wisest person at the party, was Miss Ollie Schenkel, who is 99 and about to turn 100 this coming November. Mr. John Michalechko was the wisest male at 97.
Several seniors who attended this year's party are with us today to tell us about their lives and their secrets to longevity.
Today we have the honor of sitting down and talking with Miss Hilda Snuggs. Hilda, thank you so much for being with us today and taking the time out of your day to just tell us all about your life and all that you have learned and maybe some secrets to getting to the age of 90. So tell me, when and where were you born?
All right, I was born December 29, 1933 at home, and that would be on Burleson Road today. It was country west of what is now Albemarle. Well, actually, we're at the community college, so if I could go over that little ridge of hills to the west of us, you would be in our field.
Okay.
The oat field that we always planted oats. Okay. So I was born at home, and I had one surviving sibling, sister, who was born after me, but there was nothing heard of going to any. There was no hospital here.
Right.
So if you got in trouble with home delivery, there was some these neighbors, women who knew more about birthing, and some of them maybe would come in and help. But I think mine was not an unusual birth. Now, this younger sister of mine, she was born after my dad died, and he died in July, and she was born in November.
Oh, wow.
And my mom picked cotton that afternoon. Now we needed it. It was late to get the cotton out off out of the fields. And of course, she went into labor, and my Aunt Helen out over the hill there came out and helped. And I remember they swaddled her in a little basket that you would pick up fruit.
Right.
I had little blankies, and there she was. And
How much older were you?
there's 4 years between
4
us.
years. So you can remember that as a 4-year-old.
Yes, and let me see. I asked some silly question. I know when I first saw her, I thought she was the ugliest thing I'd ever seen. But that little wrinkled
Sometimes when they
face.
come out, they look a little funny, don't they?
But and she wouldn't breathe, and this person would raise her up, throw her up, and finally, all the way to a little cot there, and she wham, and
she started
began
breathing.
to breathe.
Cry and breathe.
Yeah.
Isn't that
So,
something?
she
We've come a
barely
long
made it.
ways, haven't we, since
She barely made it.
throwing babies up.
Oh yeah. But
Well, tell me like what your home was like. So in 33,
no electricity,
no electricity.
and I'll tell you about when we got that. This younger sister and I were standing there on the cement back porch, and we had to draw water out of a well, and Randall Burleson in our community learned of an effort if they could get enough signatures on this petition. REA, Rural Electrification Association or something, would bring a line and put posts up our dirt road and bring electricity to the home, to our homes. And so Randall came, and they helped get that petition around, so we got enough signatures up our little dirt road. And the day that they had a nice big post down in our bottomland, and the day the guy crawled up and connected that and pushed a lever, and the light bulb came. We had a single light bulb up in a socket, on the cement back porch, and that light bulb came on, and we jumped, and it went off.
Oh no!
And Dale cried, but then it came back on, nice and strong. Yeah. So we had electricity.
You remember what year that was?
Well, Dale was this time. I was probably 6. I was probably about ready to go to school. Yeah. And so
Closer to
that
the
would have
40s.
been 33 to about close to 1940. And see, that brings us to the war years and all that, and I can talk all day. But anyway, the next one, so until then, we had an ice box, and my dad, before he died, built this. It was made of some metal and wood. It was wood. You'd build wooden slats, and there was some kind of metal over that, and then you build that into a box. Well, that was your refrigerator. And the Iceman would come so often. There was an ice plant still here in town. I could take you to it and show you where the tower, and they had ice in there with sawdust all the way up this, and it was a tower of ice. And the Iceman would come with big blocks and these ice hooks that you would clamp, and big block of ice, and so that was our refrigerator. And I mean, that was uptown then, there were neighbors who never had that,
Right.
and they would come, and take an ice pick and chunk, and you'd just walk around the yard eating a chunk of that good old ice. Okay. And I told about the light transformer, and I can even remember, that road wasn't paved. I can remember when the Charlotte Highway, the road, what's highway going to Charlotte?
2427.
I can remember when it was paved in front of our church on out the way. And they paved it in sections. So you were going along with this paved road, and then you'd hit the dirt and then more. So
Did you ever travel to Charlotte on that dirt road?
we did.
Did you?
My aunt, Mama's sister, had some condition that required treatment in Charlotte, and even see, my dad died with Hodgkin's disease, and they took him to Charlotte. My Grandpa Burleson took my dad for treatments, and the old doctor was Dr. Shull in Charlotte, in some medical practice there, and I can't even tell you what he was a doctor of, except radiation. Because, see, today when you go to for teeth work and all that, they put a lead blanket over you and or cover you so you only radiate a specific area. Well, old Dr. Shaw, my dad's Hodgkin's disease, it's cancer of the blood system, really. Dad had so much of that problem in his chest that Dr. Shaw didn't use any protection. He just radiated my dad just full bore, just through the, but it didn't stop the Hodgkin's disease, so he passed away. And now, I got off on that for the unpaved roads.
Yeah.
But so many months before he died, he would go for those treatments, but it didn't.
Take a little longer to get to on those dirt roads versus the
Oh, yeah.
paved roads.
Okay, and
So
then,
tell me what you did for
For
fun.
fun.
Yes, growing up
yeah.
in the country.
Yes. Oh gosh, we had corn cob fights. We had corn shuckings, where you dump the piles of corn in the yard in the fall of the year, and you'd go. Neighbors would go. Neighbors in the evenings, and you'd shuck that dried corn. The shucks go behind you. And the good corn goes there, and then that corn is gathered up, and you'd put it in the corn crib, and you would feed that to the cows and the mule. We didn't have any horses. You had some good mules and the cows. And anyway, so corn shuckings were big in the fall of the year.
Yeah.
You made cider, apple cider. Everybody had an orchard. We had peach trees. We had several apple trees. And you slice those apples. You dried the apples to make good old apple fritters, You would make apple cider. And canned apples, it would be what we'd eat for applesauce, but you'd open a can of apples. You can drain the stuff off and make a good old apple pie. So those were your ways to preserve. We didn't have, later you got these fancy pressure cookers, but before that we had, so the corn shuckings, Dale, my sister, I got with her yesterday to help me remember, the geese would migrate south in the fall of the year. You'd see the V-shaped flight of the geese. Well, we knew they were headed to Gaddy's Geese Pond down at Ellerby. And there was something there that and they may have had some kind of device or noise making something, or they had ponds. And the geese would fly there. And so it was a big deal to drive down there and see the geese and the babies.
Yeah.
And then you could get apple cider on the side of the road and all of these.
Stops along the way.
Yes. And then Mora Mountain here in our county. And I've got a picture. A cousin in the family liked to go for picnics on Sunday. We had to go to church first. And that particular weekend, we didn't finish our work. And Mama was so tired. And she didn't feel like packing a picnic lunch after church on Sunday and taking a carload of us to Mara Mountain. But so we went to bed very disappointed that evening. The next morning, I know I got out of bed. My cow was Gertie, and Johnny's cow, I forget that cow's name. I went on down to milk Gertie early, and I'm sitting there, and of course Johnny comes dragging down, and he would squirt me with milk, and I'd be milking along. I had my head leaning on old Gertie, and he would take that, and I'd go up and tattle on him or go crying to Mama because Johnny was at his
Squirting you
silliness
with
again.
milk.
Anyway, so I go up and you have your strainers. You strain that milk and you put it in that ice box that I described. Okay, and that particular morning I got that done, and I know the oldest sister in the family, she came in to call me to get up and get down and get my milking done. I was already down there. She looked down there and I was already milking Gertie, you know. So I remember she was able to go back to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And went back to bed thinking, well, I guess we'll just have to go to church today. We won't get to go tomorrow morning. And my mother, I discovered loaf bread, peanut butter, jellies, all this stuff in the kitchen. I forget what else. Mama had been down to my Uncle Newt, who had the little country store there on 2427. He had opened the little store and sold us cheese and loaf bread and mayonnaise, and you had tomato sandwiches and all this stuff, you know.
All the good stuff.
And Mama had already packed our picnic lunch.
Oh.
So we got to go to Morrow Mountain, and I thought we were going to, you know.
That was a big trip.
Wherever. And we drove, and of course, so excited, and Dale began to get mountain sick, you know, car sick, you'd say. But and so she made a picture of us. Mama had on her nice dress that she wore to church, and saddle Oxfords. They were painted white out there and sort of a tan across. And that was a something that some shoe that her sisters had passed to her. But I had polished those shoes and shined them, you know. And so, and she's wearing those shoes in that picture. You know?
Oh, I bet those are beautiful shoes.
And my brothers, the two brothers who were the ones who threw corn cobs at me, they were standing, Ted and Johnny, they were standing so shy. You know, we didn't go anywhere. You went to school, you came home, and they just had no self-esteem, no manliness. See, Dad was gone, and there was just no man, well, I'm trying to say a model.
Right, a role model.
A role model. Okay. All
So
right.
tell me, how many siblings in total did you have?
Okay, there were 6 of us.
Okay, 6 total.
Yeah.
And you were the next to youngest?
Yeah.
Okay.
And see, I almost got slapped backward one time when we were talking. Some aunts or somebody came around, and we were talking about how hard it was for Mama with 6 children.
Absolutely.
And see, she knew he had Hodgkin's disease, and they had assured her they'd gone down east to a sanatorium. I think there was some fancy place down east where Grandpa took Daddy, and they told him then there was no, that disease is going to get him, you know. And I know Mama was sharing this with a cousin who was there to eat with us one day, and I'm puttering around, and I said, Mom, why did you keep having children? You know, I mean, he knew he couldn't live. And I almost got slapped backwards. And that was a question that didn't need to be asked.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, tell me, where did y'all go to school?
To Indy School, and we took our little milk jars. You took milk from home, no cafeterias, no. And Mama would, sometimes we took little ham biscuits, and you took a little jar of milk. And at school sometimes, this was during World War II when the food was rationed, and you couldn't get chocolate, and orange juice was rationed, food rationing, you know. And once in a while they would serve orange juice, but the way you handled that milk, you raised the window and set it out on the little ledge, and it stayed cool till you had a divider in the classroom that you took your little lunch bag. We didn't have lunch bags, so Mama put it down in a little something. But you'd go back there and bring your little lunch out and have that ham biscuit, and once in a while they would come from somewhere and bring orange juice, and man,
That was a privilege, wasn't
oh
it?
yes, yeah. So my milk,
Nice treat
Yeah.
versus the milk.
and one day my milk stayed out there. You know, I had orange juice for lunch. Well, it was out there, and I think the teacher said you need to take your container home. So I bring it back and put it down in whatever little container I had, and we're on this school bus going home.
Bouncing around.
I had a little pat of butter on the top of that milk. See, it had been out and evidently warm during the day, and anyway, everybody on the school bus passed that jar around and got a chuckle out of my making butter.
Making butter on the school bus. That's great. So you've told us a lot about some of your favorite childhood memories with your Mara Mountain trips and your corn cob fights. Are there any other memories you'd like to share with us?
Dale helped me remember. We listened to WBT radio, Grady Cole, and they had this band called the Briar Hoppers, and they traveled about and even would go to places, Albemarle, Concord, and places around like that to entertain on the road. But we kept that radio on all the time. There was no TV.
Right.
And Grady Cole was this folksy, and they would, anything they could talk about, and throw in recipes. And of course, the latest happenings in the Briar Hoppers with this crazy band. And you listen to the news. Mama didn't miss a second of the news. That you had to be quiet and listen to the news, because we had cousins away in service, and then you listen for the weather, because in the country, growing your food, weather is important.
Absolutely.
And it's when it's going to be dry, when it's going to be rain, when you're going to have a frost and cover your veggies and things like that. So Dale can just remember the warm kitchen, always food. We were lucky to, you put your name in for a refrigerator, you'd be on a waiting list. And we finally got refrigeration. But until then, your food stayed on the table. You put a tablecloth at lunchtime, and then you go back and that same food. Now today, they would have some kind of
They'd
law
have a fit,
enforcement.
Absolutely.
But, and I'm sure that we had lots of sickness just with food not being refrigerated.
Right.
Okay,
So did you graduate from Indy?
yes,
What year did you graduate?
1952.
1952 from Indy.
Uh-huh. And I tried to find my list. But one of our teachers had graduated from Woman's College in Greensboro. It later became part of the university system, you know.
Greensboro.
But it was Woman's College then. And she wanted me to go for a 4-year degree, but I felt like my mother couldn't afford it. And so I signed up for the 1-year degree at Woman's College.
Okay. In Greensboro.
My mother, I guess, drove me there. I didn't get to come home until Thanksgiving. There was you didn't.
Drive back and forth.
No. And their bus system was not that great, and there was no train, whatever.
To ride all the way back. Yeah.
So you had to pack your clothes and take a lot and not have any, and telephoning. Let me see. There was some telephone service. It seems like maybe there was one call that maybe I made to somebody, but you would have to go some place. Oh yeah, my Uncle Newt had a telephone, and you could go down there, but you've got to coordinate that. I had to be at a specific telephone in Greensboro, and they had to make it down to Uncle Newt's, and so it seemed like maybe I had one conversation by telephone.
Did you write a lot of letters
Oh,
back
yes.
and forth?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I kept, yes, we all did, my roommates and I. We all did that. See, we were all in the same boat. Some were from Charlotte, Gastonia, places like that, far away from Greensboro. And so we kept a log, diary. All right.
Yeah. So after college, after your 1 year at the
Okay.
Women's College in Greensboro, did you start working?
Yes, my sister got me, and came home that summer, and got me a temporary job for the summer down at what is now Collins and Aikman in Norwood. Sissy worked in the office. Her boss was the head of the plant. And my job was the most boring job. And I sat at one of these typewriters, and it was in the traffic division. Mr. Kelly was my boss, and I had to type trucking orders for these trucks that would go and see. Collins and Aikman started in Rhode Island, and they had plants in the north, and they kept coming south with these little mills, and they changed from whatever their former name was to Collins and Aikman. And these trucks you'd send this truck to Rhode Island, and then they take a load of, let's see, the Norwood plant made the yarn. So they take a roll of yarn, and you pick up and at some place they picked up cloth, but they made rugs, they made drapes, all of these products. And so no order, no day was the same, but it was, and you had to be specific. If you were typing 14 and it showed up 16 up there, that could be a whole carton wrong, or half of a truckload wrong, and they've got to unload that. And so I had to be and I was not proficient because you had to be exact.
Right.
And
And so that was your first job.
yes,
And how long did you work there?
well, that was the first summer, and I decided I didn't want it to be. My mama, she went to her grave giving credit to Pfeiffer College in Stanley County. She would even make, as poor as she was, she would make a little donation to them every year. But I don't know how many members of her family were able to go. And see, they even add postgraduate degrees at UNL. I mean, they kept getting better and better.
Absolutely.
And so I got my 4 years there, and then I online through something down the university system here and somewhere way out west, online, you take these courses, and I got extra degrees.
Okay.
So it took
So what was your
years.
4-year degree in?
That's when I, at first, see, I was in business, and then I moved my brother, and I can't get into that, but by then I had moved from Eden, 2 hours away from here, to Albemarle, right across the street from Albemarle Middle School. And they needed teachers, desperate for teachers. So I go in and I begin, and then I go to the community college here and get certified so that,
You can teach.
yeah. So I went from business, I got certified in, yeah,
Early childhood
and,
education.
And then you commuted degrees
With
to
a-
get your master's degree.
with a concentration in social studies and language arts social studies. And
So
and
then you started teaching at the middle school in Albemarle. Okay.
and that's where, so after 31 years
Wow.
in total, I got my 31 years in,
And with the Stanley County school system. Okay.
yeah,
Wonderful.
retired.
That's a career to be thankful for and commended for. 31 years teaching, absolutely.
Right, for heavens.
Did you stay at Albemarle Middle School the entire 31 years?
See, I lived across the street. My brother finished renovating a home, and I moved in. Oh man, you can't believe what that place looked like. But I moved in and had a little path and a good bathroom, and so I have continued to renovate that home almost up to the present day. So I have a main floor and upstairs and a nice basement.
Okay.
And so, but I could walk across the street and teach.
Right.
And so it was so convenient for me.
So, how did you meet your spouse?
That was at that plant in Norwood. My older sister, who was the secretary to the plant manager, she got me a summer job.
And that's where you met your spouse?
Yeah, and it was the boringest job again. You had this metal hook, and I cleaned cotton off of the spindles. A spindle, something that would twirl, and cotton would get around it, and you'd have to take that little thing and get the cotton lint off. So I had dragged this barrel with me, and you'd put this for the guys who came along, and again, they made thread there at that plant, and this lint would accumulate on this spindle, and somehow it was a problem for the guys who put the big spool on to gather the yarn. So I had this metal hook, and I had punches in my fingers from getting that lint off and dragging that barrel. That was so. But that was
Labor intensive, it seems like.
yeah. So that was my first job.
Yeah.
And then they needed someone, this sissy who worked in the office at this place. She had this old typewriter at home, and I taught myself to type. And they needed someone in there to, in the office, to do those orders. So that's how I got that job in the traffic department, where I had to copy those boring orders. Okay. And
So you met your spouse at Collins and
yes,
Aikman.
yes.
Yeah.
And,
What was his job? How did
he-
y'all meet there?
He was signed by the Cincinnati Reds out of high school.
Wow.
And went to Cincinnati, played, would come home in the summer, or he would play during the ball season, or come home when the season was over. And he did that for several years, and they were the Cincinnati Reds. He was out of Columbia, South Carolina, and they were going to move him to Ogden, Utah, AA ball instead of Class A. So they needed some pitchers. He was a southpaw pitcher.
Right.
And they needed somebody in Ogden, Utah. And I mean, that's across the world from Norwood.
It is.
And so he had to think about it. And he did not sign his contract. He let it lapse. He didn't report. They sent some big dude from somewhere. He came down to the farm and tried to sit there and have prayer with him over his decision, but he wouldn't go back. So that's when he stopped playing professional ball and began. By then, these different mills in Ashboro and here and down east, they had local ball teams and a league.
Right. He
So
started playing on
this
those.
town would play that town. So that's how he ended his career. And with baseball, he was drafted. And this was 1951, 53, 50, somewhere along there. He was drafted and played on the teams, the military teams, and
What branch of service was he in?
Army,
Army.
Fort Benning, Georgia. Anyway, we ended up, I followed him. See, we were married then, and I followed him to Salzburg, Austria. And I know that he shipped out and went over by ship, and I flew over. Sabina Airlines. I've got pictures. And
I bet that was an experience.
it was. And I can remember we flew into a larger city and somewhere in Belgium, and got on a smaller plane that would be landing in Salzburg. And I know I got so airsick, it was an uncomfortable flight. and you went over the Alps, and you climb, and then, rocking around and coming down, and I know everybody on the plane almost was sick by the time we landed there in Salzburg. And
How long did you guys live there in Austria? Do you remember?
the 2 years,
2.
and he played on the baseball team there. And it was great. Each of the Austria was divided into 4 zones. England. It was England, and we were in the United States zone. England, France, United States, and the Russian zone. So they had Austria divided into 4 zones. Germany was divided into 4 zones. But and that's what you can read in history now of the Berlin Wall and the how the Russians just shut the other 4 sections out. And if you got through that wall, you had to have special identification. Okay, so we were living in Austria, and our camp was Camp Roeder, and they had a camp, and all around Little Salzburg there were about 5 or 6 camps, and my husband was assigned to the motor pool, and they worked on the tanks and the jeeps and all of that, and Grease Monkey by day. But then during the ball season, he was on special assignment and had to travel around for all of entertaining the troops and the wonderful Austrian people. They were wonderful. I couldn't speak a word. They speak a low German, it's called, their dialect. Frau Bigot was my landlady, and the day that we got to Salzburg, I met a friend, my husband and Don from Minnesota were both in the motor pool together. And Leon was trying to get his company commander to pull strings, and it so happened the company commander lived in this nice upstairs of this home, and my husband was trying to get him to sign papers and all that to clear so that Shirley, Don, the motor pool guy, Don from Minnesota, could get the wives over there, get us clearance. And so we were put on military status. And that means they assumed responsibility of us. They could get us there safely, and so we could travel under that kind of protection. So I met Shirley from Minnesota in New York, and flew over and went into landed in that little landing strip there in Salzburg. There were, they had cut hay and made shocks, stood little bundles up, you call shocks of hay, little bundles of hay in these little fields there in Austria. It's almost like they cut it by hand. And here we're coming in this smaller plane closer to the little airport there in Salzburg. And I see all these that's what they did way back when I was a little girl. That so primitive. And I thought, where in the world am I going to live? Where are we going to end up? But anyway, this Frau Bigot, the day that my husband and Don went down you had to go down and apply to live off base. And Mrs. Begot was down there that day. A company commander had sort of treated her badly. And man, she had evicted him and had her a whole upstairs of this beautiful chalet home vacant.
Oh, wow.
And she needed a renter. And Leon and Don were behind her. And she was, trying in her German, trying to explain how she threw that guy out. And she was saying she wanted another military person who would treat her right. Well, Don and Leon stepped up, and she turned around, and I don't know what, I think they really smiled, and she rented the upstairs of that house to us.
Oh,
It was a beautiful
I
home.
bet so. I bet. So now, did y'all have children while you were there, or
Oh, no.
after you came back?
Yeah, afterwards.
Tell us about your children.
Okay, 3.
3 beautiful children.
Girl, boy, girl.
Girl, boy, girl. All right. Any grandkids?
5 grandchildren.
5 grandchildren. Any great grandchildren?
1.
1. Wow.
Yeah, where's the most exciting place you've ever been?
Well, that, my sister and I, okay, there were 6 of us kids, and brother Johnny, it was Dale, me, Johnny. When he came home from the Air Force, his goal, he had flown over so much of the world. He was in Fairbanks, Alaska, and he was on this big plane that they would take off sometimes in the snow, but they would fly up, and it was in the days when there was a lot of friction between us and these other, Russia maybe. He was Fairbanks, Alaska. You're almost to the top of the world. And his assignment was to fly high and keep your eyes open for any incoming aircraft that shouldn't be there. Okay. When he came, he had seen so much of the world. He wanted us to, his wife, and so there was a family group. We started, and his goal was to go to every state, and he wanted to get us to Alaska, where he had been assigned, So we got to every state, but I think we got to every state. Didn't get to Hawaii. Even got
Every
to
state
Alaska.
but Hawaii. You got to Alaska.
About froze to death.
It's cold up there, isn't it?
Yeah,
It sure
I
is.
mean,
So you got to see all 49 states, all but Hawaii.
yeah, and that was something that he had flown over that area, but he wanted us to get there, Okay, now, so.
So what are you
Oh.
most thankful for? Or go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh, but what's the most interesting place? I think the Grand Canyon,
The Grand
Oh.
Canyon.
Capitol Reef,
Yep.
Zion, Bryce Canyon, Yosemite. I mean, you
You've seen
can't.
a lot going to all 49 states, so it's hard to pick out just one particular place.
Well, but
Yeah.
see, all of that, when you're in that canyon area, you just keep climbing and climbing and climbing, and each has another name,
Right.
name, and that's it is. People from all over the world come and go to the Grand Canyon.
Absolutely.
You have to. We stayed in a motel and spent several days there because we were in this van, and that's how we covered the states. We would hire a van and keep it all summer,
Right.
and you wore your clothes out that suitcase. You'd have to throw it away when you get home, because you wear it out. But in the Grand Canyon area, there's no way to see it in a day. You
Yeah.
can't drive in and out.
Right.
So That, to me, is the most interesting place that I ever visited.
Yeah. Good.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And what am I most thankful for?
Yeah. Tell us what
Yeah.
you're most thankful for.
Good health.
Good health. That is something to be thankful for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm almost, I say this when I mouth it, along with mouthing it, I don't have a pain. And most people 90 years old, they can, have to have help getting up and down. My muscles work. My fingers work. I want my brain to continue to work.
That's impressive.
I have to have help with eyes, and I've got help with hearing. And I know that I am getting a little forgetful, so I make a lot of notes.
I have to do that as well. Don't worry.
But and I have to say, you're born with this. I mean,
Yeah, to be 90 and no pain, that is a true blessing.
yeah. And again, I go back. When I was conceived, my dad had Hodgkin's disease,
Right.
but my mom was that strong. So I must have gotten a
Got
good,
some of her good genes.
good genes, I
Absolutely.
guess. So good genes.
Good genes. Yeah.
And then I have never carried a lot of extra weight. And I think that has helped my joints
Absolutely.
and hips.
Yeah.
And things like that. And then, your breathing, if you've got a lot of body to have to get oxygen around to, it's taxing on your body.
Yeah.
So I think that I give credit, but just thank God for good genes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you've had an amazing life and wonderful children and grandchildren who still are around to support and love you. And
Yes.
so lots to be thankful for.
Mercy.
Well-
And I'm not much a long-winded prayer, but don't think my Maker.
Absolutely.
That's how I put myself to sleep at night.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today and telling us a little bit about your story. And we wish you all the best in the days and weeks and years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
You're welcome. Today we have with us Miss Ollie Schenkel, and we have the honor to be here with her. And she is 99 and will be turning 100 this year. So thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Miss Ollie, tell me when and where you were born.
I was born November the 26th, 1924, at the place called Olive Branch.
Olive Branch in Union County?
Near
Near
Union
New
County,
Salem.
New Salem Township.
All right, so not too far away. And you were born in, you say 1924?
Yes.
1924. All right. Now, did you grow up in Olive Branch?
I grew up around there until I was 24.
Okay. All right. So did you have any siblings?
I had 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
2 brothers and 2 sisters. Were you some of the older, or you were older or younger?
They're older. I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest.
Of the family.
So you're the baby. All right. And tell me, what was it like growing up? Because I know there's not much to do around Olive Branch. Last time I was there was just a store.
Well, we played it and sang, danced. We just had a good time because you knew any better. You didn't have any better, so you just enjoyed what you was doing.
Right. Did you have electricity?
Not at all.
Not at all.
It was over in the 40s before I moved with electricity.
Okay, so your whole childhood, no electricity.
No,
Any indoor plumbing?
no,
No indoor plumbing. So you had an outhouse?
yes,
Okay. And did you have a radio?
yes,
All right. So you had a radio to listen to music and
yes.
some
and,
entertainment.
had a stereo, old record player they called it. We had old guitar we used to fram on,
Okay.
and we had a lot of done a lot of singing and dancing.
And singing and dancing. Now, did y'all grow up around a lot of land? Did y'all have to work in the
Yes,
fields
we
or
were. I was
gardens?
raised on a farm.
On a farm, okay.
Yes, I chopped cotton, picked cotton, plied the mule.
Yes.
I did a little bit of all of it.
A little
you
bit of
know.
everything. So you had a mule and you had cotton fields.
Yes.
Did you have any other animals?
We had cows and hogs,
Cows and hogs. Did you have
raised chickens.
Okay.
People eat imitation chicken now.
They
Back
do.
then was good
The
chicken.
good chicken. We don't
Yeah,
get. We
you
don't
could-
have that anymore.
You could cook a chicken and smother it down with gravy, and it was delicious.
I bet
No, it don't taste
Yeah.
like chicken.
it's different now, isn't it?
Yes.
It is. Now, did you have to milk the cows?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
All right,
We had
so-
plenty of milk and butter, plenty of hog meat, and plenty of chickens and eggs.
Mm-hmm.
We very good. People talk about it being hard, but it was good because we knew any better
That's right.
and we enjoyed what we was doing.
Mm-hmm. Just thankful to have what you had.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, when you milked the cows, how'd you keep the milk cold?
Well, back then, people used to take milk, put it in a jar, put a string around the lid, and let it down in a spring.
So you put it down in the spring to keep cold.
Yeah, and then later we began to get an ice box.
Mm-hmm.
And the ice man come along with a great big chunk of ice would last you for a week.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you have a well for water?
Yes,
All right.
yes. We drawed water, carried water, wood.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about how we kept wood in the stove to cook our food.
Mm-hmm.
But you had some of the best biscuits,
Oh, I bet so.
and they would brown so pretty in that wood stove. It's amazing to think about how it is now.
The difference.
Yeah, it's more expensive.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes.
And it's not as good making those biscuits anymore, is it?
I wish I had 5 cents of every biscuit I've ever made.
Oh my goodness, you'd be rich, wouldn't you?
I'd have that much money.
Bukus of money.
Yes.
I bet your biscuits are delicious.
Yeah, they were.
So tell me about school.
Well, excuse me. School was good, but we walked 3 miles and a half to school.
3.5 miles to school. Did you go to New Salem school?
Olive Branch.
Olive Branch
Had
school.
one room
One room.
with 35, 40 children. You know, it was rough. I've seen the time some sit down a while, some stand.
3.5 miles there, and then you'd have to stand. My goodness.
It wasn't too pleasant.
No, you said 30 to 40 students?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did they teach all grades at one time?
You went up to the 7th grade, and then if you went off to high school, you'd have to go live with somebody that lived where a high
Closer.
school was, or either near,
Mm-hmm.
and you had to pay rent
Right.
Um,
Right.
to be there.
Yeah. So tell me about some childhood memories.
Excuse me.
childhood memories that you
Oh,
can
my.
think of?
I remember how we used to make playhouses. Go out in the woods and clean out your place and make you a playhouse. And we'd tip a lot of rags and make us a ball. We had a lot of fun playing hopscotch. And we just done a lot of things, you know, there wasn't anything but paths and dirt roads. We walked to Bible study on Wednesday night, and we come back and play in the yard till bedtime, the moon shining pretty. We just had a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of good memories.
It was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a good childhood.
And I had a mother that you had to be on your P's and Q's after you get a good whooping.
She go out and make you go get a switch, huh?
Oh, Lord. But she was a good mother. She didn't have a lot of education, but she had a good mother with. My mother could take a catalog and look and see a dress, and she could take newspapers and cut that pattern out and make a dress. Like,
That's amazing.
when she died, she had a lot of little rows of
Patterns.
newspapers.
Uh-huh.
And I threw them away, and I thought, why didn't I see if I could put any of them together? But I didn't.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of good remembers of coming up. And
Sounds like she was
It
a
was-
talented woman.
yeah, it was fun.
Does she teach you how to make biscuits?
Yes,
Yeah.
I learned how to sew from Mama.
Yes.
Yeah, I could sew.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of sewing in my days.
Good. So, tell me, you went to school at Olive Branch. What did you do after you were finished with school?
Well, I stayed home. I'd done a lot of domestic work.
Okay. And you got married.
Yes,
Where did you meet your husband?
some guys brought him to my house.
Did Mama approve?
Not really. Mm-mm. She did.
He had to win her over, huh?
But she said, you married him, now you tough it out. I said, I will.
Well,
And
tell-
I did. I was married. I married in 49. He died in 2009.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good, long, faithful marriage there. So,
Yes.
very good. Well, tell us a little bit about him.
Well, he worked at a brickyard
Mm-hmm.
there in Norwood.
Okay.
He was a farmer too.
Mm-hmm.
And he loved to dance, and he could dance
Goody.
and sing.
No.
He sung on quartet. Yes, and he's a pretty good old guy.
Yeah.
I put up with him. Mama told me not to marry, but I did. I put up with
You
him
put up with
all
it.
them years,
Yeah.
so it's all over with.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
was that 50, 60 years
yes,
that you were together?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, tell us about your children, your grandchildren. Do you have any great grandchildren?
I have 5 grandchildren.
Uh-huh.
I have 5 great grands. The youngest one is, I think, 8 months old now.
Months. Wow.
She's in New York. I've only seen her personally one time. That's my baby boy's daughter, Colleen Shanker, baby.
Now, how many children do you have?
4,
4 children.
2 girls and 2 boys.
Okay.
Yeah. And the boys only have children, the girls didn't have any.
Okay. Gotcha. So 5 grandchildren and 5 great grandchildren.
Right.
All right. Babies and everything.
The baby, the youngest one, will be 15 tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Of the great grands.
So do they live? I know you said you have one in New York. So are all your children in different states?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any near you?
In Concord
Mm-hmm.
and local
Mm-hmm.
around home.
Yeah.
Miss Ollie, we have to know about your hats. And I have seen newspaper articles on your hats. So I would love for you to just tell us all about your hats, what they mean to you. Maybe even if you can give us an estimate of how many hats you have.
I don't know exactly how many hats I do have, but I do know I have several hats. I about got more than I got room for.
Where do you store your hats?
Excuse me?
Where do you keep your hats? Do you have a whole hat room?
I have them up in the closet.
Yeah.
Some on top of the wardrobe.
Have you always worn a hat
Yes. I've always liked
since you were
hats.
little?
Yes.
All right.
And I started making me some kind of little hat, you know. And, what I had on at the birthday dinner,
Mm-hmm.
I had that in, that was a little skirt. It had stayed in the drawer for 3 years. My daughter-in-law gave it to me. Her sister gave it to her from New York. So one Saturday morning, I woke up and my mind said, go get that skirt. Put the band around your head and cut it off, make you a cap. So that's what I did.
Well, I would have never known it was a skirt. It looked like it was a hat from the very beginning.
Yeah.
That's
And
impressive.
one morning I woke up and I decided to take just a long piece of material, fit it around my head, and just sew it up. And now I can put it on my head and I can twist it, curl around my head, make a design and make a wrap, head wrap.
Yeah. So, do you go anywhere without a hat? Very few.
Very seldom.
Yeah.
If I do, I don't feel right. And when I get home, sometimes I take my hat off and I still feel like I got it
I
on.
feel like you're missing something if you don't
Yeah.
have it on.
Right.
Well, the hats that I have seen are a beautiful collection of hats, and the fact that you're able to make hats still
Yes.
is very impressive.
Yeah, I've done a lot of little mending things. Now, I got a party dress at Rose's 4 years ago, I guess. Had round stones, but it was broke. And I got it for less price. And I took a part of it and put it on a shirt. And the skirt has round thorns in it. And I took and covered the hat, put some of the round thorns on the hat. And then I was looking out to find a pair of shoes just like it.
You got some shoes to
So
match.
I'm round thorn from head to toe.
You sparkle all the way around, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. I love the sparkle.
I enjoy doing those things. I made 100 and some nightcaps. But we was stopping over next to the corner store. And the traffic line, the big pickup truck hit us in the back.
Oh no.
And it knocked my eyesight away for a second. And I'm bothered with my eyes now. If I hadn't have made those, I couldn't make them now because I cut a dress off for Mother's Day. Him did, and the line, it took me for a while to do it
Right.
because my eyes bother me now.
Well, still to be able to sew and
Yes.
do what you're doing it's commendable. So
I enjoy doing. I overwork a lot of times now, and then I pay for it.
Well, that might be what keeps you going, though. You stay
I know.
busy, don't you?
Yeah, I like to work.
Yeah.
I was raised up to work and to be clean. If you done something and it won't right, Mama make you go back and do it over. And you know, we didn't have mattresses. You didn't have a new bed tick until they cut the wheat. So you raised the wheat and you carried it to the mill and got your flour. Your corn, you got your cornmeal. And when they cut the wheat, you get the straw. You fill up a big tick, and that was your bed tick. And you had to make up that bed. You had to pat that straw till you got it smooth. Because else Mama make you go back.
She'll make you go back and fix it.
And you had to do it and do it right. My children say, can't satisfy you, Mama. But if it's not right, it's wrong. I tell them you can't satisfy me because you don't try. When I want something done, I want it done. I
Done
want
right.
it done right.
That's
If it's not right, just leave it alone and let me do it. Now, my daughter here, Vanessa, say, Mama, you'll go on and do things just to say I didn't do it. No, that's not it. If you don't do it,
You know that you can do it and you can do it
I
right.
go on and do it. Yes, I enjoy doing, but I overdo sometimes.
Yeah.
I didn't go to church Sunday because I done too much
You've done
Saturday,
too much, yeah.
and I hated that.
Well. So, where do you attend church? Where do you go to church?
Union County is my home church,
Okay.
but I go to church in Norwood when I don't go over there.
Okay. So, besides sewing and making biscuits, what else do you like to do?
Oh, I love to wash dishes, cook, clean.
Do you like to cook for other people?
Yes, I like to. I like bake cake and make puddings. I love old-fashioned banana pudding,
Me too.
and I just love cooking. Period. And I don't know. I just love doing anything I can do, mopping, washing. I tell them there's nothing I don't like to do. You know, some people say, I don't like to wash dishes. I don't like this. But it's not anything that I don't like to do if I can do it. When I was on the job, my supervisor told me, he said, oh, that's one thing I like about you. He said, anything we ask you to do, you go do it. I said, but that's the only way I'm going to learn, is to go and try.
So, where did you work?
I first got a job at Phil Pacific, making contact arms. I stayed there for 6 months. And then I went to Jeffers Processor here. And went there in 69. I stayed till 81.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we fold mature shirts, sewed there, sewed mature together. Now, I enjoyed that.
Well, it sounds like you were a good employee because you always like to make sure
Yeah.
you did it right.
Right,
That's how your mama taught you, right?
right. I was in a car accident in 81. I never did go back to work. So I just retired from that.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you still keep yourself very busy.
Oh, yeah. I love to because I think that helps me a lot to keep going.
Keep going, absolutely.
I believe if I sit down, well, time may come when I have to. But until I have to, I'm going to keep doing and going. I got a daughter in Charlotte. She said, Mom, you just go too much. I said, I got clothes. I got my health and my strength to get up, take my bath, and put them on. I said, I'm going as long as I can
That's right.
and stop when I can't help it. And that's soon enough.
Well, and that's probably the key that's kept you going.
Right,
You know,
right,
continue to use it so
Yes.
you don't lose it.
right.
So other than that, do you have any other secrets that you think have gotten you to 99?
I think it's just a blessing because all of my family, my husband's family, I don't have uncles and aunts, very few cousins. And they dropping out every once in a while, not pretty often. I lost nephew, I guess it's a year ago or 2 years. This April, and I lost a niece in May, and then I lost another niece in September, and I think another in October, just dropping out behind one another, you know. And I think, I don't know, it's just a blessing from the Lord for me to be here.
Right. Each and every day
Yeah.
that you get to be here. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share about your life?
But I try to be good. Another lady said, you don't try, you do. I be good to people. And anything I can do to help a person, I will, you know. And if I give, I think about the Bible says, God bless the cheerful giver. I love to give and do, you know. So it's a blessing.
Well, it's a blessing to be here with you today.
Yeah, well,
and
it's-
I know it's a blessing for your family and friends that are able to share each and every day with you. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
And if there's anything else you want to share, the floor is yours.
No, because when you farm, you know, you have a long story. And I think about how we walked to church and how church was then. It's a lot of different now. People don't care whether they go to church or not. But it had a lot of spirit about church years ago. And then August come, you felt like it was our meeting time. But now, went to church Monday night, there was 5 white people there and 5 black. There was more empty pews than there was people. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I went last night, I think it's about 12. I still enjoyed the service. You know, we had a good time walking to church. You know, a lot of people got cars and they would come by and dust you up going to church, and some would nice enough to slow up. Sometimes you had to stop to the dust settle before you could go on, you know. But I lived with good people. We had good times.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
There's a little girl born after. I grew up there from 4 years old to 15, and she was just like a little sister to me.
Yeah.
And we grew up together, and we had a lot of fun. When she died, her son said he wasn't going to bury Mama till he got up with all of me, because we came up together
Yeah.
and we loved one another. We had a good time. People thought we had a hard time, but it was a good time because we just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
It was good.
Well, your outlook and spirit is just, you radiate positivity, and just to think about those times of you growing up and how you just are thankful for what you had.
That's
and
right.
that's really something that I think we all should take into account and be more appreciative each and every day.
Right.
So thank you for sharing your story with us.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
I've enjoyed it.
Thank
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure for us as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Today we're excited to have Miss Bonnie Herring here with us. Thank you, Bonnie, for being here. We appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with us.
I'm always ready to talk about me.
That's great. So we're going to start off and at the very beginning. So tell us about when and where you were born.
Okay. I was born in 1934, right after the big depression. And I think my dad worked with the CCC in forestry. You know, the CCC later became the National Forest Service. And he should have stayed with it. My mother was teaching. Daddy was a student. He came from an extremely poor family. He was a good basketball player. So he and his buddies got together and they all came back to school and had this basketball team. They had five people. And I said, Daddy, what did you do if one fouled out? He said, we used 4.
So where were you born?
In a little town in Florida.
Okay.
I grew up on a farm. They didn't have to worry about keeping us occupied. We had plenty to do all the time. All my friends were workers. We worked in the field. My sister and I used to get the box of salt and go to the tomato patch and just eat those tomatoes right off the vine.
Off the vine.
Yeah.
So y'all had a working farm.
Yes.
Did you have any animals?
Daddy loved animals. He loved animals so that he was raising cattle. That's where we got a little bit of money occasionally. His cattle all had names. And he would put the feed in the back of his truck with the buckets, and those animals would follow him. And one by one, he would call their names to come be fed.
Could you remember all their names?
No. No, I don't. No. He had pigs. That was our meat. And during that time, we were poor, but there were a lot of people that were extremely poor, that the community had to feed them. And my mom and daddy, bless their hearts, they did that.
They would help
Constantly,
feed
they
others.
were taking food to people.
Yeah. What certain things did you guys grow?
Peanuts and corn,
Peanuts and corn.
watermelons. We used to have to chop weeds out of the corn and go back in and pull the corn off. And I'm going to lose my voice.
You're okay.
Pull the corn off. And I would drive the wagon with the horse. I was the oldest one, so I got to do duties like that.
So how many brothers and sisters did you
I
have?
have 2 sisters and did have one brother. We lost our brother
Okay.
4 years ago.
Okay. So you're the oldest
I am the
of the
oldest.
siblings.
Right.
Okay. And 2 sisters and a brother. All right.
And a grandmother. I came from a very close family. My mother came from a family of 10 kids,
Oh, wow.
and they all lived in that same area most of their lives. But I used to be thrilled to death to go spend the night with Grandma. And I always thought that I was her favorite grandchild until we get together and I hear the others say the same thing.
She spoiled you all just the same,
Yes,
didn't she?
Yes, she did.
Oh, that's good. So what did you and your brothers and sisters do for fun?
Well, I had pajama parties with my girlfriends. We didn't do a lot. We swam a lot in the local swim hole.
Mm-hmm.
That was sort of the community pool.
Mm-hmm.
And when I took my kids in it and they looked at that water, They called it their Coke water because that's the
brown.
color of it.
Mm-hmm.
Comes out of the Okefenokee swamp. But with it comes very good soil. I almost envy my sister in her garden. She could go out and take a little metal thing, I don't know what you call it. It's on the end of a pole, and she just drops it in the sand, does that, and drops her plant in.
Oh, wow.
Here, I get the
Rocky soil. You have to work at, don't you?
axe and cut the soil open. My mother couldn't believe that. She watched me one day.
Mm-hmm.
But I got it in.
Your sister still lives in Florida?
One does, one lives in Atlanta.
Okay.
And we call each other just about once a week. And one of my sisters lost her husband 10 years ago. And they bought my mother's farm and turned it into a tree farm. That was another industry in that area.
Mm-hmm.
When you're going down 75 and I think 85 and you go through Brunswick, you get an awful smell. And it's the paper plants.
Mm-hmm.
And the trees for that paper plant, a lot of them were grown in my county.
Oh, wow.
That was Daddy had quite a few longleaf pine.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where North Carolina got the name of the longleaf pine state, because I grew up with them.
In Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about school. Where did you attend school, and what was it like?
It would probably be a school that would not be accredited today. It was a country school.
Mm-hmm.
And this was during the war. We probably had teachers that were not qualified. I know, and I went to the same school from the first grade through the 12th with the same kids. What we did for fun then, we played basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And we played on a clay court. And I've often said, why didn't somebody introduce tennis to us? We had the clay court.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been converted real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And we played other little country schools. We were not very good.
Did you have school buses? Did you have to walk to school, or did you ride a
We
school
had
bus?
buses.
You did. Okay.
Yeah. And I used to walk to the end of the road to meet the bus. And my thing in high school was black and white Oxfords.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd walk in the sand that morning, and the sand would be white sand,
So it wouldn't mess up your shoes.
and it would mess up my shoes, and that would make me so angry. I had to have my shoes polished every night.
Did you polish them every night?
Yes, I did.
Do you still have any Oxfords?
No.
Oh.
My sister found a little black and white shoe Oxford, those little collectibles,
Mm-hmm.
and I have that one.
Yeah. So tell me about your home on the farm. Did y'all have electricity
No.
or indoor plumbing?
No.
None of those things. So
I was in the 11th grade when we finally got electricity and a telephone. And the first thing we did when we got electricity, we bought a freezer and a stove.
Mm-hmm. So what was it like? No electricity, no indoor plumbing,
You survived. And you hope you didn't have to go to the bathroom in the wintertime. Because you'd have to get up and go down to a two-seater.
Mm-hmm.
My kids can't even comprehend that.
Right. It is hard to comprehend,
Yeah.
you know, now that we've lived
And
so
now-
long with it.
Yeah. We always had a car or a truck. We had a horse. I rode the horse over to see my girlfriend when we had a storm like we had this past week.
Mm-hmm.
There was not an awful lot of damage. It was basically rain, but it would wash the sand roads out.
Mm-hmm.
And the bus drivers shouldn't go. So one time we had a pajama party at our neighbor's house. I think there were 8 of us. and we decided to play hooky. So we hid in the bushes till the bus went by, and then we were going to walk to school. Well, we started walking and we passed a swimming hole. We decided to go swimming.
Instead.
So we stripped everything, and I don't know how we got back in our clothes wet. And here comes a neighbor who happened to be a school board member, and he went straight to the principal's office and told on us. And when we got to school, there was the principal
Waiting
right
for
out,
you.
waiting on the steps. Girls, where have you all been? We missed the bus. Well, by this time it had already gotten to my mother.
Word got around fast, didn't it?
Yes. And we had quite a talk when we got home that afternoon.
But that's a memory you won't forget.
No.
That's good.
We had a great time.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah. My sister was not one of them. And how she was dating somebody that she ended up marrying, and he had a car. And they skipped school and never got caught. I did it one time and got
caught. It's just the luck of the draw, right?
Yeah.
So school, you had everybody went together in one classroom, or did you have multiple classrooms?
We had multiple classrooms.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you went there first through 12, or all 12 years?
All 12 years.
Okay.
So, and very few people went to college. In my class, 2 went. I was ready to see what was out there.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do after school was finished?
I started work in Jacksonville as a flunky in an office. I was a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the managers, it was a plumbing company, and the manager wanted me to go to business school and train for secretary. That was not for me. I did not want to be a secretary.
Mm-hmm.
If I did anything, I would go in accounting, and I'm not very good at math, so. Anyway, I could have gone to Berry College. Are you familiar with Berry College?
Mm-mm.
Well, it was established for the mountain people of North Georgia. And they went free if they worked. They wore a uniform, and each color uniform denoted the grade they were in. Very good school.
Mm-hmm.
It is now a expensive private school.
Mm.
So it's a beautiful thing up on a mountain hill.
Mm.
2 of our granddaughters, classmates from Greystone, got scholarships there.
Mm.
One to play tennis and one to play something else, soccer maybe.
Right.
So, formed by a lady named, she was a mountain lady, and she recognized that these kids needed to learn something. She went to Henry Ford and asked for money to build a
That's
dormitory. He wouldn't give it to her. He said something, he gave her a dime. Well, several years later, she paid him back his dime.
Huh.
And he gave her the money to build the dormitory.
Cool. That's an interesting story.
Yeah.
We'll have to go and look up Berry Hill.
Berry College
Berry College.
in Rome, Georgia.
Rome, Georgia. All right.
My brother-in-law went there, and he got a degree in chemistry and was the head chemist in the lab for the state of Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Sounds
His
like a
sister-
good school.
His sister, I don't know what, she got a PhD, finally got her PhD in physics and worked with NASA.
Wow.
She just retired not long ago.
How about that?
So, and now I regret very much not going. Very much.
Well, you just took a different path.
I did.
And that's okay. Tell us about that path.
I'm going to tell you this story because I love to tell it. I'm a great believer that God is control of us. Sometimes I question it, and lately I have questioned it. John was in medical school at the University of Tennessee.
And that was your husband
Yes,
and
became my husband.
became your husband. You can tell us how you met?
Yes.
Okay.
They go straight through. They do 3 years instead of 4 by going straight through. But between their sophomore and junior year, they have a 2 months break. And then John had joined the Navy because his parents could not afford to send him to med school. The Navy paid his tuition, which was a blessing to us. But anyway, they sent him to Jacksonville for what they call an externship. Well, I went to First Baptist Church in Jacksonville, and the bus from the Naval Air Station came within 2 blocks of our church. So we always had good-looking young sailors. We didn't have to worry about a date. They were always there. And we, every Saturday afternoon, we'd meet at the church, get a great big black iron pot, and fill it with shrimp. And we'd go out to what is now that real fancy retirement near, anyway, across the little bay was the big ship that all these guys, they were pilots, and they were learning to fly and take off and land on a moving
Ship.
Anyway, they were fun, even though they were very arrogant. They knew it all. They were from Georgia Tech. They had been drafted and they resented that. And the sad part about it, most of them ended up crashing and losing their life. So I saw that through. Anyway, John was in a different area. He was at the hospital. He was just assisting in surgery and doing whatever the doctors told him to do. But his father, who was a minister, wrote my minister and said, I have a son at the Naval Air Station and he needs to come to church on Sunday. Would somebody go out and invite him? And somebody did. John said 2 ladies came out, and I can almost tell you who they were. One probably was the associate minister, and one was the youth minister. And they invited John to come. Well, he did. And I was sitting, I could cross my legs in, but I've got a sore knee now, but I was sitting with my legs crossed, and my knee was showing. I had on a red dress, and my knee was showing, the dress was up over my knee. And he tells anybody he fell in love with my knee.
Your knee is what caught his eye.
First of all, I thought he was too young. And I didn't think anything about it until after church, when we used to go to church on Sunday night, the adult youth would meet in the basement of the church and sing and play and eat. And John came to that and he was playing the piano. I walked up and sat down on the bench beside him and introduced myself. And we've been together 66 years.
That's amazing.
We dated. This was we had a Valentine dinner. And I happened to be the Valentine queen. This was the 1st of February. Well, he left 3 weeks later. That's how long we dated.
So how old were y'all when you got married?
23.
23. And did you get married in that area, in
Yes,
like
we
near
did.
Jacksonville?
John wanted to go get married right now and go back to Memphis with him.
Is that where he was from?
That's where he was good in school,
Okay.
University of Tennessee Med School.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to. I needed to think a little bit more. In the meantime, he's already asked Daddy if he could be comfortable if he married me. He said Daddy told him as long as he took care of me. And John reminded me of that all the time. That he promised Daddy that he would take care of me.
Right.
And he did.
So tell me what it was like after you guys got married.
First of all, he had naval duty to do. He had to pay back those years for his tuition, which would be 3 years. So we wanted to stay in Florida. They sent us to Rhode Island.
It's a little different than Florida, isn't it?
We were like two petunias in an onion patch in Rhode Island. I mean, that is a sophisticated, rich little area. It's a beautiful area. And I regret that I didn't do more with it. That's where Baptist started. We went to the First Baptist Church that was established by Roger Williams. Roger Williams spent his whole life establishing the church and that state. And that we were right there. I mean, you could stand in our house and the ocean was right here. Jackie Kennedy's house was right over here. And there was a house here and a house here, and we were on the corner. And John had been shipped, he had finished his internship in sea duty. If you marry a doctor, and a Navy doctor at that, you better be ready to stay by yourself. His salary was $100 more than the rest of the staff of the ships, which was okay. To us, it was rich.
So where all did y'all travel or move to?
We moved 4 times with the Navy. One time he was in the Caribbean for 4 weeks.
Did you get to go with them?
No,
No.
I had a little boy that was less than 2 years old. Have you heard that the Navy men come home from sea, get their wife pregnant, and leave again? I'm
Living
can
proof.
confess to that. Because when he finished his internship, we were going to celebrate, and I don't know why we thought we could celebrate. We didn't have enough money, but we were going to Quebec City. We were not that far from it, and we started driving over the White Mountains not Vermont. What's next to Vermont?
New Hampshire.
Anyway, and we ran into the first snowstorm of the year. We got into Canada, and the road was iced and closed. So we spent the night in the hotel, got up and came home the next morning. 9 months later, I had a baby girl.
Oh.
That's how we celebrated. Okay, he was in and out a lot in the North Atlantic. But after Kim was born, he got orders. you all probably don't remember Eisenhower as being president. But Eisenhower thought that we need to recognize and become more familiar with the South American countries since they were right at our doorstep. So he sent them on a people-to-people goodwill tour. And John was transferred from his little ship to the admiral's ship. And the admiral happened to be later Secretary of the Navy. And here they go to South America. They go through the Horn. I don't know what they call it, but they played games with the South American navies. And then at night, the embassies down there would entertain them. And John played the piano around South America. I want to tell the kids who don't want to take piano lessons, those were little gift points for John on his record. That he was able to people with his piano.
Music speaks, doesn't it?
He was gone 6 months. I was left in Rhode Island with 2 babies in the wintertime.
Cold.
Very cold. Now they know how to clean the roads. But remember I told you the road was here and my car was parked over here. Well, here comes the plow piling all this snow in front of my car. And that snow freezes at night. I couldn't move the car. And my 2-year-old got the German measles. And he was so sick. His temperature was 104. So I called the pediatrician, what do I do? And he said, put him in a tub of ice water. I said, Dr. Miller, I can't do that. I said, he'll get pneumonia. He says, we can take care of pneumonia. We can't take care of brain damage if that temperature stays up. So I got up the nerve to put him in a sink of cold water, but not ice. It brought the temperature down. And the next morning he was like a different child, other than red spots all over him.
So did you have just the 2 children?
At dealing with that, I was 6 months pregnant.
So little ones, also while pregnant.
Yeah,
So 3 children?
3 children.
3 children. How many? I know 1 boy and 1 girl.
Another boy.
And another boy. Okay.
I have an older son in Atlanta. So, and he is the intellectual one in our family. He has taught a Sunday school class 42 years.
Wow. It's dedication.
He started teaching in the young adults. He met his wife there. She's very bright. They don't have children because they were too late getting married. And he has followed that group on up to the seniors now. And they have such a good time. They have a travel club. And they were fortunate enough that one of their ministers was a travel agent. So they've traveled all over the world.
Especially since growing up together, like
They
living
have.
life together. I bet they're a really close group.
And it's a group that I don't want to sound, I don't know what I want to say, but it's a group like the CEO of one of the the delivery companies. And the one that has the little brown truck,
UPS.
UPS, UPS. They invite them into their homes, and they just have a good time.
Sounds like it.
And that church has left Southern Baptist Convention a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, besides Rhode Island and Jacksonville, where else did you guys live? And how
Charles.
did you get to Albemarle?
Okay. Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
Then John decided he knew he needed some more education. So he applied for a residency. I think it's called a fellowship now, but back in our time it was a residency.
Mm-hmm.
And he chose OB. And when he finished OB, we came to Charleston. And again, we had 4 different cities that we served in the Navy, and every one of them, first thing we did would be find a church.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you move into a new city, people in the church can tell you where to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where's the mechanic? Where's the hospital?
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. Where's the best grocery store? So we ended up back in Washington, D.C., and that was an experience. We were actually in Maryland at Bethesda Hospital,
Mm-hmm.
the top hospital in the Navy. And when you hear of Congress making rules, so forth, dealing with medicine, they practice it
At that
at the
hospital.
Bethesda. And Bethesda takes care of Congress for free. So how can they understand?
Right.
Not only that, but all the embassy personnel of everywhere. John did a procedure on a Russian girl, and he had to do it with a Russian agent in the surgical unit.
Definitely makes for interesting
Yeah.
conversation there, wouldn't it?
They were afraid of what she might say under anesthesia. So he's had some. And from there we went back to Memphis for 3 years. But every time we moved and found a church, that church was in need of an organist. So John stepped in. And he played the organ every Sunday that he did not have duty.
Mm-hmm.
And one time he was playing in Charleston over in Mount Pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Preacher, you're going to have fishy music today." He was a herring at the organist, and the pianist was a trout.
And so that created some fishy music. Well, tell us how you got to Albemarle.
Okay, we went back to Memphis. We bought a house, the first real nice house we had. And we met wonderful people. And John he had all of his certification then. So no more school for the time being anyway. He started going to the Medical Society meetings in Memphis and met Dr. Fort's brother, who told him Dr. Fort needed some help. And again, it was a godsend because John was really up on medicine and music, but he knew absolutely nothing about the business of running a. And Dr. Fort was a businessman before he went back to school. In fact, John was a senior leaving UT in Memphis when Dr. Fort was a freshman. So when he came to Albemarle, somebody said to me, he's Dr. Fort's assistant. I said, no, he's not. He's Dr. Fort's partner. He actually had more experience in OB than Dr. Fort had. So, and they worked together 29 years,
What year did you move to Albemarle?
1968.
68. Okay.
Are you an artist? Or have I seen some paintings? Can you tell us about those paintings?
I can tell you that John got to the point he wanted me to do everything he did. He didn't want to go to the grocery store without me. And he started taking lessons. And he finally persuaded me to go with him. And he tells everybody that I went one time and the teacher had me painting a painting. That's not true. I can push the paint around. I cannot draw. I have done a couple that I'm proud of with my palette knife. It's more like painting by numbers, except I follow the lines. The teacher had one of those reverse cameras that you put the picture up and I could draw the outline and then fill it in. Where he would draw it and then fill it in. He was more the artist than I was. I was better at mixing the paint.
What was your favorite thing to paint? What was
Something
your favorite?
crazy.
Something.
Like my favorite artist is, the woman in New Mexico. Oh, what is her name? Anyway, she painted plants blossom from the inside out. A lot of her paintings had been ruled not very nice. But I thought they were gorgeous. And the perspective of seeing a plant bloom from the inside out. I can't do a big scene. I can't get it all in.
Yeah.
Can't get the perspective right.
Yeah. Are you still painting to the
No.
No. Well, I have seen some of your paintings and they are beautiful.
Very talented.
Where did you see my painting?
From your son. He showed us pictures of your paintings
yeah.
and they were
Bragging on your talent.
Yes, beautiful. Beautiful.
It was fun. And again, we were with an older group, that wonderful people. And you know the state cut that? And that was something that I think was needed. It was different to get at. Speaking of sons, Scott has been the best caretaker. I mean, he doesn't think I can do anything. But he takes care of me. He and my daughter. Now my daughter's very talented too, and so is Scott. Scott can take a pencil and draw something.
It sounds like it runs in the family.
Yeah. And music does. John came from a very musical family. And on his last day of any cognizant type, I had 2 CNAs helping me with him. It's awfully hard to see a bright mind totally destroyed, and that's what we did. It's horrible. It changes you. She had been trying to get him up out of bed and move a little bit. He wanted to sleep. And what I didn't know, this was the said goodbye process. But anyway, she got him up and got him dressed and breakfast fed. And he finally told her he'd play the piano for her. And she got him over to the piano. He said that he did not know where he was. He hadn't known me in quite a while. He did not know Scott or his brother. Kim said she wasn't sure if he knew her or not. But he got up and she got him over to the piano. He sat down and played Amazing Grace. And Mark happened to be coming upstairs with his telephone and he got it recorded.
That's a good memory to
But
be able to keep a hold of.
yeah, Scott has it and has made some tapes of it, but and hospice, bless their hearts. If you ever need hospice, don't get them. They are wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So we've had times of great joy and times of great sorrow. And
Well, can you tell us what you're most thankful for?
my kids,
Yeah.
Kim is very artistic, and after she had her own business, but after the what did we close everything down for?
COVID.
COVID. She just didn't have enough to pay all the tax she had to pay to have her business. So she just recently closed it. But, and all of them are, no, Kim is not involved in church anymore, but Scott and Mark are. Mark feels guilty that he is not here to help Scott and Kim, but the hospice chaplain happened to be at home one day when Mark was here, and she said, Mark, the fact is you do live in Atlanta and nobody expects you to come every weekend. What you need to do is to call your daddy every night and tell him you love him. And come as often as you can. So, even in all this stress, well, hospice kept trying to get me to leave because they thought I had sort of reached the point that I needed to slow down with something normal. So, Kim and I decided we were going to Pinehurst to have lunch one day. So I got up and I had my clothes folded in the laundry room up on the ironing board, and I went in and picked them up and came back in and got dressed. And when I was dressing and put my pants on, I thought, these pants have been laundered one time too many. They look faded out and so forth. Well, I didn't think anything about it. I just went ahead and put my sweater on. It was a black watch plaid. I had lost some weight and none of my clothes fit, so I had to get some new jeans. So we went to Talbot's in Pinehurst. We had an envelope that 40% off. Well, I got back in the dressing room and I looked down and I had on my husband's pajamas. I said, Kim, please don't let that lady back in here.
I bet you bought some new pants, didn't you?
I bought some new pants. Yeah, when you go somewhere and you walk across the lobby and your daughter says, "Mom, pull up your pants." You know you better go get some more pants.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right. Well, what are some things you like to do with your time?
I'm in a hole right now. I'm not doing. I can't find what it takes to motivate me to get up and do. I love yard work, especially in the early spring.
Mm-hmm.
And my yard is a big mess, and I just can't get out there and do it anymore. I have a fear of falling. I saw John fall so much that I have a deteriorating spine, and I also have some occluded arteries, which robs me of my energy. And it's very frustrating.
I'm sure.
We love to travel. We had planned to travel more. I think you learn so much just traveling. We had been to England twice. I had been to Germany. I've been to Germany 3 times. The Mark group was going to a Mediterranean cruise, and we went with them. That was unbelievable. We were in Ephesus, and we saw where Paul delivered his message to the Ephesians. John should not have gone because he had had cancer, and his treatment had been over about 3 months, but it was still too much for him, because when you start climbing stairs on rocks that are 200 years old, that looks like a piece of ice, it was too much for him. But he wanted to go with his son, and they did. So, of course, he was always going to take me back to South America. He had a ball in South America. So,
Sounds like y'all have been a lot of lovely places and experienced so much around the world.
we have been fortunate. It just ended too quick.
Yeah.
I've often wondered why God took him. I'm the one with all the problems, and he still had so much to give. I look up on Sunday mornings and I see the piano with that empty bench. He and Asa did quite well together. Were you all here when he and Justin Hill played a lot?
Right. Didn't have the opportunity to
Well,
hear his talents.
they were great. They were really good,
I'm sure.
and people wanted copies of their playing. Of course, they can't do that
Right.
because of the rights of the authors.
Are there any other secrets you'd like to share about making it into your 90s for those out there watching?
Just hang in there. It's not fun. You have to realize you're not what you used to be. As Dr. Veach told me, I was complaining about getting tired, so he says, "Bonnie, you're 90 years old. Your blood doesn't go up and down your body like it used to." That's hard to hear. So
Just taking it one day at a time, though.
one day, 1 hour at a time.
1 hour at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are very thankful for this hour that we've got to have with you and to hear your story as well as John's. It sounds like you guys have provided a beautiful life for your children, and thank you for sharing that story with us. Today we have the privilege to sit down with Miss Faye McLaughlin, and she is going to talk to us a little bit about her life and growing up and all that she's experienced. So thank you, Faye, for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are excited that you can make it. Tell me, when and where were you born?
I was born January 2nd, 1930, in a home on East Main Street in Albemarle.
Okay.
Back then, the doctor came to your house and delivered the baby. My doctor was Dr. Hill, and also the mother stayed in bed for 9 days after the baby was born.
Wow.
And I think it's a little unusual now. That
Absolutely. They get you up and out
Right,
of the
right.
hospital nowadays. But so you born 1930.
Uh-huh.
So tell us, how old does that make you today?
94 and a half.
94 and a half. What a wonderful age to be. So you were born here in Albemarle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you have any on Main Street?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us what your home was like.
It was a very pleasant home. I just have one brother,
One
but
brother.
it was a happy place.
Absolutely.
And I have very fond memories of my childhood.
Okay. Now, did you have, since you were in town, did you have electricity and
Oh yes,
plumbing?
we had electricity and water, and but we didn't get TV until the early 50s.
Okay. So what type of things did you do for fun, since there was no television? You and your brother, what's the age difference there?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. So yeah, I bet y'all were pretty close.
We were, and back then there were things like Chinese checkers, and my granddaddy lived with us, and so we played a lot of checkers. And back then you listened to the radio, Lum and Abner, and there was another show sort of like Lum and Abner, and then Kate Smith, and back then when we went to school, we came home for lunch every day.
really? Well, speaking of schools, what school did you attend?
I went to Central School. At that time, it was the 1st through the 6th grade.
Okay.
And then after that, we went to the other end of the block, which is now Central School, but then it was high school,
that was
and
the
that
high
was
school.
7th through 12th.
Okay. Nice. So what year did you graduate?
47.
1947 from Albemarle High School.
Mhm.
All right, wonderful. Well, other than you and your brother playing Chinese checkers, do you have any fond childhood memories with your friends around town that you'd like to share?
Well, I do with my family. Every Sunday afternoon, we got in the car and went towards Baden, but we stopped somewhere to get ice cream cone, and then we went to Baden and threw the rocks in the water to see if we could get them
Skip some
to
rocks.
skip, and so
Yeah.
that was the highlight of the week.
Oh, that's wonderful. So what flavor ice cream was your favorite when you stopped?
Chocolate.
That's my favorite too. Do you remember some of the places you stopped for ice cream?
No, I've tried to do that, but it was on the way to Baden. I know
Right.
that, but it was probably in the area where the ice cream place is now.
Okay.
It's not regular ice cream. What do they call the ice cream place out there where the golf?
Oh, where the Good Oputo used to
Uh-huh,
be. Yeah, that's the shaved ice, where they have shaved ice. Okay, good. Well, chocolate's my favorite too, so I enjoy that. So you graduated from Albemarle High School, and then what happened after graduation?
I went on to Woman's College in Greensboro,
Okay.
and then I worked with the Albemarle City Schools for 21 years and enjoyed that. And So I've had a very interesting and blessed life, I
It
think.
sounds like, yeah. So what schools were you at when you taught?
At Central School, and then later at East Albemarle.
Okay. What age did you teach?
Kindergarten and second grade.
Oh, those are good ages. So you were the
Yes,
first one they
yes.
got to experience in their school
Right,
time.
right. It's a sweet age.
It
and
is.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And so you taught for 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then tell us about during that time frame, over the course of 21 years, how did you see the schools change?
Well, the rules about having prayer in school changed a lot. At one time, it was all right, and we could sing religious songs. And then later, we had a moment of silence that was supposed to take care of the religious part, I guess.
Right.
But and then too, we didn't go home for lunch. You stayed at school all day. I don't remember what year that started, but I sort of liked going home. We had an hour, and usually when I got home, Kate Smith would be singing, and you probably don't remember Kate Smith.
I don't.
But she was a good entertainer,
I bet.
especially good on God Bless America.
So do you remember what year it changed when you stopped going home for lunch?
No, I don't remember for sure what time it was.
But you were teaching when it stopped? Or were you a student when it stopped?
I was a student, I believe.
Okay, yeah. That's nice to have a whole hour. So how would you get home? Would you walk home?
Walk, As I don't remember school buses for Central and high school, but we didn't live too far from there. We could
Right.
get there and back without any problems.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing, if it was raining, you might get
A little wet, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Okay.
So, in your later year, how did you meet your spouse?
Oh, that's a little interesting, I think. When I was in high school, the Full Moon was the school paper, and I was in the class that took care of the Full Moon, and so I wrote the news of the school for the local paper, and that led to I would go to the News and Press to take it every week, and then when I was older and in college, I substituted down there when somebody in the office was on vacation, and I would substitute, and it happened at that time a good-looking young fellow had just graduated from Carolina with a major in journalism, and so he came to be the sports editor at the News and Press, and there was a few years difference in our ages, and I always called him Mr. McLawhorn, but it happened that Mr. McLawhorn and I found we had a lot in common, and to make a long story short, the next year we got married and had a long, happy life together.
No, that's
So,
amazing.
what year was that?
We got married in 1950.
Okay. All right.
1950. Did you have? Where was your wedding?
It was in Central Methodist Church. That's used to people got married in churches, now it's venues, But,
Absolutely.
But he joined that church before we were married, and then we had 4 great children, and as I said, I felt it was a blessed life.
It sounds like it. So you had 4 children. Grandchildren?
3 grandchildren, 3 great-grands.
3 great-grands.
And the last 3 great-grands were 3, 2, and 2 months.
Oh, so still little
right,
babies.
Right, but
Yeah.
they just bring so much joy into our lives.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yes. So, have you traveled throughout your life? Do you have a place that was your most interesting place that you've ever been?
I haven't done a lot of traveling, but I would say the most interesting was Hawaii. My son was in the Navy, and he had several tours in Hawaii, and I enjoyed that. And I remember that every afternoon, or just about every afternoon, there would be a beautiful rainbow. And so when I think of that, of Hawaii, I remember the rainbow, and it was a very interesting place. Most of the traveling we did was wherever that son was stationed, like San Diego and Whidbey Island and just Washington, D.C. And that was a very interesting place, but most of my traveling had to do with where he was stationed.
Yeah, yes. So, what are you most thankful for?
My family. My family, my faith in my family.
Faith and family. Now, where all does your family live?
I have always lived in Albemarle, except for the time I was in college. I have been in Albemarle, and my family came here from Concord in 1910, and there were a family of 5 children, and 4 of them stayed in Albemarle. But now all the family is elsewhere, so
Right.
I don't have a lot of family here, but I remember when we'd have nice get-togethers.
Right. So your children live away from Albemarle?
Yes, the one I talked about is in San Diego,
Okay.
and I have a son in Concord and a daughter in Mount Pleasant. She loves animals, and so she got a farm out from town where she could keep her horses, 2 horses, 2 dogs, 2 cats, and a cockatoo. So that's an interesting place to visit.
Well, I bet it is.
It is, it is.
It's a trip within itself, isn't it?
Right, it is.
So, can you tell me what is the secret to living to be in your 90s? Because you're 94.
I guess I'm blessed with good genes for one thing, and then 2, we always had pretty healthy food, and I never smoked or used alcoholic beverages, and I pray a lot. I believe a lot in prayer, and just to spend your time on things that are uplifting and worthwhile. And but when I was talking to the doctor one time about my cholesterol was pretty good, and I was sort of taking credit for it being that way. He says, "You didn't have anything to do with it. It's your genes."
I think you should have gave you more credit than you
Well,
deserve.
I sort of took that up with him later on, but anyhow, I guess I did have good genes. My mother lived to be 97, and she was a very interesting person. She was more of an extrovert, whereas I've always considered myself as an introvert, but I'm happy to have the chance to talk to you ladies and
thank you.
reveal some of the things that have happened over time. I can remember a lot of the changes that have taken place in Albemarle as far as buildings.
I bet so.
That we used to have 2 hotels, and every year the school children would give programs at the hotel, because we could walk from either of the schools where I went, Central or high school. We could walk to the hotel and give programs to the Lions Club and the Rotary Club. One met on a Wednesday and one on Thursday, I believe, and that was interesting for us to get out of school, and then it was usually a fun time, so we like to do that.
I bet you've seen a lot of changes,
Oh,
especially
yes.
in the downtown area over the years.
Oh, yes, with the courthouse being moved in the library, and I remember on East Main Street there was a little hot dog joint, and oh, it was fun to go there. You could get a meal for 15 cents.
Oh, wow.
But now the library's where that was, and the Legion Auxiliary building was there too, and there was a bus station across the street. And although I don't know about the new bus station, but I've read in the paper that you can call and get a schedule. And so I guess it depends on where you're going, whether or not you can be served by
Right.
Greyhounds.
So tell us what you like to do
Oh, I
on a
like to,
regular basis.
I like to play with the great grandchildren. They're just so interesting, and I used to play bridge right much, but I don't do that as much anymore. There are some things that go with aging that sort of prevent you from doing the things, like if your hand won't pick up the cards, you have to give up bridge.
Yeah.
But I enjoy the church, and although I don't go now, I'm so thankful I can get it online, and I can see my friends that way. However, so many of my friends are in assisted living or have moved away, so I miss them. But
Well, you're fairly active.
fairly,
I know you go for daily walks if you can.
yes.
And tell us what motivates you to do that.
It's healthy, and my doctor says whatever you do, don't give up walking. She says just keep on walking. So you may see me struggling by with my cane, but he says just to keep on walking, but on flat territory, not uphill.
Right,
So,
right. Well, I get to enjoy the morning time when I get to see you out there strolling along. It's definitely impressive and something that I am hopeful for one day that I will be able to continue to do on into in my 90s as well.
I feel good about walking, and I don't like the days when it's too rainy to go.
Right.
I have a little machine that my daughter gave me that I can use. Now my granddaughter gave it to me. She's a physical therapist, but it gives me exercise. It just staying at home,
Yeah.
but I do enjoy that, and she says that walking is very good for not only your physical health but your mental health.
Right. Absolutely. Well, you're definitely an inspiration to
You're-
be able to get out and keep moving like you do. So,
Well, thank you, thank you.
so I would say good genes and movement, right?
So that
That's
sort
your
of sums
secret.
it up.
And your faith and family.
Right,
Yep.
I was going to add that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the blessings that God gives us.
Absolutely.
And I feel, in fact, my favorite room at home I call my blessings room because it has pictures of all my family in it. And I was glad that when we built that house 68 years ago, that knotty pine walls were used in the den. And of course, with all my pictures, I need to have something that's not going to damage plaster. That and of course I keep adding pictures
bet
to
so.
when people get married or when they have little ones, it takes some more place. So there's hardly a place in my den that doesn't have a picture of a member of the family.
Yeah.
And we're hoping for more.
Absolutely. Well, I bet that's a very special blessing room for you and your family.
Well, I do In fact, the picture of my husband that's up very, very high, I was so glad when I first got it, but after his death, any place in the room I went, he was still looking at me, and I liked that. I thought, well, if he's still with me and looking over me.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you for being here with us today and inspiring us to keep moving and continuing on. And thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here. Thank you.
We would like to thank all of our honorees who agreed to sit down with us for an interview, along with our sponsors, volunteers, and staff that helped make this year's 90+ birthday event memorable. For more information on senior services or Senior Center events, please stop by 283 North 3rd Street in Albemarle or call 704-986-3769.